Soldering tools is a very important subject, as there is no electronics workbench without a soldering tool, or there is no electronics hobby without a soldering tool. Hence why I have several videos on this subject, which I will link in the description below so you can check them out. And I will continue to do such videos when new tools are presented. Everyone wishes for a JBC soldering station or a Metcal soldering station because these are very well known names in the industry. They produce some high quality soldering tools and most importantly very capable soldering stations, but unfortunately their price is quite high, so hobbyists don't usually afford such soldering stations. That's why clones of these big names soldering stations appear on the market, and that's why people buy them. For example, here is the KSGER T12, which is a clone of a Hakko T12 soldering station. This can be had for half or even less of the cost of the original one, and it's compatible with Hakko original T12 tips, which brings its performance to identical levels of the original station. And this brings us to the subject of this video. This is the BST-933B soldering station, which is a clone of the JBC CD-B series compact soldering station. This has been on the market for a while, but I recently got a chance to review this station when Banggood offered to send me one for free. I would appreciate if you would check out the links I place in the description. This will ensure I can get more gear to review in the future. Price wise, if you were to order one of these, it would cost you about half the price of the original JBC station. Depending on where you order, the original one is around 400 euros, while the best station is just 200 euros on Banggood. The station is nicely packed. It feels like they invested a bit more in packaging to feel it premium. Inside you get a manual, which is 2/3 Chinese, and the English part is not very helpful, but generally speaking you shouldn't need a manual for a soldering station. And you also get three best branded tips inside, the T245 compatible handle and a power IC mains cable, as well as an ear strap. I was told this station is compatible with the genuine JBC C245 tips, so this could be a plus, because in that case you should really get identical performance to the original one. And I must say the station feels really heavy. I bet this has a transformer inside, and I've checked this. The weight of the unit is about 3 kilograms. The base of this is what looks like hard plastic, and it has a bunch of vents on the bottom, and here on the back I can also see a small cooling fan in there. The top part is also plastic, but feels like it's a higher quality plastic, which has this nice satin finish. Around the soldering tips storage area we have this polished metal that will protect the plastic from getting into contact with the hot parts, and it kind of copies the exact look and feel of the JBC. You have the same system for removing the tips, for cleaning the tips. You have both the wire wool and the wet sponge for cleaning, so it's very similar, if not identical, to the original JBC station. The handpiece also feels pretty nice and high quality. The cable is definitely soft, and it could very well be silicone. We will be testing this later. You have this nice strain relief on here. The green part, you would expect this to be like a soft silicone rubber, but it is not. It feels like a plastic. It's not such a big deal, but I thought it's something I should mention because you would expect this to be soft. There are 3 tips included in the package. They are branded BEST. 2 are quite small and thin, and there is also a 3rd knife type tip, which is also pretty small. I would probably prefer this knife type out of these 3 because it feels like it's more general purpose. I will be comparing the performance of this station with the KSGER T12 using methods that I have shown in previous similar videos, but keep in mind the T12 station or tips are rated for 70 watts, while the JBC one is 130 watts peak, so it is to be expected to have a slightly better performance if the specs are accurate, even though the 130 watts is a peak rated power for the JBC station and the nominal is around 70 watts, which is similar to the T12. I would still expect a difference in the heat up time just because the JBC can pump more watts into the tip to get it up to temperature. I will be using these knife type tips, and the T12 is slightly larger than the JBC one, so yeah, this is the best I can do. The knife type tips on the T12 series are just larger than the JBC ones. I will also be doing a teardown of this station later in the video to check out the build quality as well as any electrical safety aspects that we find inside this station. Something that I wanted to check before powering on this station, and I think some of you might be interested in this aspect, is how the tip is connected to ground. So the tip itself is almost a dead short to the earth pin on the IEC connector, while the ESD connection point on the station is connected via a 1 mega ohm resistor. I'm not sure how this is handled on a original JBC station, but maybe you guys can let me know in the comments. So now let's power this up and take a quick look at the graphical user interface and the menu system. I have no cartridge chip installed right now, we don't need that. So upon powering it up, we notice welcome message. It detects that there is no tool installed. So let's go into the menu. We have station settings. Let's go into that. We have a pin code, so that would be useful in a production environment if you want to lock the settings of the station. You don't want the operator to mess with the settings while in production. You can set the power, so 130 watts is the maximum, but you can also lower it to a lower value. 130 watts might not be needed for a C245 tip. The temperature unit, you can set Celsius or Fahrenheit. The maximum temperature, I usually set this to about 400 degrees Celsius. I never go that high with my boards because they will usually start exfoliating at 400 degrees Celsius. The minimum temperature, 50 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure how that setting would help. You can turn off the beep. This is the backlight control, so you can have it fully on, you can have it turn off when in sleep, or you can turn it off completely. I think I'll have it on all the time. And then we have the tool settings. We can set the temperature at which it will start. We can set the sleep temperature, the sleep delay. I usually keep this at 1 minute. And we also have the stop delay, which is like the hibernation mode. This is when the station will turn off heating to the tip. And this is temperature adjustment. This would be better called calibration because you can go positive or negative on this setting. I believe this is for calibrating the temperature on the tip. This will also give us a good chance to test how accurate the station reads from factory with the calibration set to midpoint at 0. We have some counters for working hours, sleep hours, stop hours, and no tool hours. I guess this could also be helpful in a production environment. We're running here version 3.2.1, and it was released 3rd of January or 1st of March. I'm not sure which format they use here. And we can also reset settings to factory defaults. Now, before powering up and connecting a tip to this station, please listen to this very carefully. There is a potentially dangerous issue here. It's either a quality issue with the handle and the way it connects to the tip, or I am to blame here because I might have pushed the tip too hard inside the handle when I first connected it. I wasn't sure how deep this is supposed to go, so I may have pushed it too far inside. There isn't like a click to let you know that you've pushed it enough. But here is what happened when I first powered it up. The measured temp was stuck at 20 degrees Celsius and the station was pushing the full power into the handle, causing this silicon wire going from station to the handle to heat up and become hot quickly. If that happens, immediately turn off the station from the main switch to prevent damage. The fix here is to reinsert the tip into the handle and maybe just spin it a bit 90 degrees, something like that, until it makes a good contact with the handle and starts reading the temperature. Like I said, this may have been caused by me pushing the tip too hard inside the handle, but it's also something to be aware of in case this is a quality issue with the handle and it affects other units as well. This can get pretty dangerous. I believe this wire can melt if all of that current is going through it and you don't stop it in time. Now, my opinion about this graphical user interface is that it could massively be improved by using better menu item names, a better structure, a better font, so it's certainly not the same level with the original JBC, but does it get the job done? Yes, it does, and since it is a soldering station, the menu system is something you fiddle with in the first couple of days, then you forget about it and just use the station every day. Who knows, if this product becomes popular, maybe someone will build an open source firmware, which I'm sure will be way better than the default one. The cooling fan noise during normal operation is pretty noticeable, and I would probably try to switch that for a more silent fan, but more on that in the teardown. At this point, if you would compare this to an original JBC station, well, the original one doesn't have a cooling fan, so it's completely silent. Now it's time for some testing, and I will start by measuring the time it takes for this iron to reach 300 degrees Celsius, measured by this special thermometer which has a thermocouple installed in here. If you remember from Voltlog 243, which I'll link on screen right now, the KSGER T12 station did it in about 17 seconds. We'll be comparing against that reference, but before running the actual test, I am checking to see if by default the readings on this are accurate, and it seems like it's 20 degrees higher than what it should be, so we need to adjust for that in order to obtain a 300 degrees reading. So let's go into station settings. Was it here? No, it was into tool settings, and we need to adjust this to be, it seems like this value is affecting the actual tip temperature and not the reading on the display. Okay, let's check our temperature now. Yep, we are now at 300 degrees Celsius. I have let the tip cool down. It is now at room temperature, so let's see how fast it reaches 300 degrees Celsius. So the best station did it in about 10 or 11 seconds, depending on where you start the measurement, and that is 7 seconds faster than the KSGER T12 soldering station. That's a significant improvement, and that is most likely due to increased power capability of this station. It's capable of injecting up to 130 watts into the tip right at the startup where it needs to heat up the tip quickly. For the second test, I will be using this custom PCB I designed a while ago. I will be melting equal amounts of solder wire on the center pad on these PCBs. I will make it in a way that I will stick the soldering iron tip to that blob of solder. Next, I will suspend these in front of the camera and let them cool down, and then turn on the stations. Gravity will be pulling on these boards with an equal force, so whichever falls down first is the one that heated the solder fastest. I mean, in the previous test we saw the best station is 7 seconds quicker than the KSGER T12, so I pretty much already know that the winner of this test will be the best station, but let's do it anyway. I have the test set up. To the left it's the JBC handle, to the right is the KSGER T12 handle. I'll have to turn on the KSGER first because it takes a few seconds until it starts heating up the tip, while the JBC station starts heating up the tip immediately after power on. So I'll leave about 2 or 3 seconds in between just to match their start. And as expected, the winner of this test is the JBC station, but obviously it can put more power into that tip. Now it's time for a teardown, and to open this up you only have to remove these 4 screws. You can leave that one in there because there is a cutout in the bottom section of the enclosure, and it separates like this. On the inside, the unit looks generally clean and good quality with good wiring. Live wires are isolated. The wires they use seem to be of good quality, and they are certainly very flexible silicon type insulated wires. There is a fuse inside the IEC mains connector, and there is another fuse on the motherboard. The transformer is mechanically secured with this thick frame to prevent it from moving inside the case. The soldering on the PCB looks fairly clean. It just seems to have everything you would expect from a high quality tool, and yet there are a couple of bad points to mention here. The transformer brace seems to be pressing on these wires which are used for the iron holder detection, and this is an oversight as these wires could get pinched and damaged. And the second issue is that my particular unit has a couple of important cracks in the plastic case. The first one is on the transformer brace, and this is obviously affecting how the transformer is mechanically attached to the bottom of the case. And the second one is in the main case, and it extends a pretty long way, and I'm not sure if this happened during shipping. It most likely did. It might have been dropped during shipping, which might have caused these 2 cracks. But it could also be bad quality control at the factory, or bad packaging, because packages are supposed to be dropped on their way to the destination, and they're supposed to be designed in a way such as to protect the product during shipping. On the plus side, the controller is based on an STM32F1 series microcontroller, and there is a JTAG header in here, so this is totally accessible for hackers that want to design a custom firmware. The cooling fan is a 40 by 40 by 10 mm 12 volt unit, and I just happen to have such a cooling fan which should be a bit more silent, and I will be installing this as well as fixing the cracks in the case with some epoxy. Now overall there are good things and bad things to be said about this soldering station. On the plus side, the construction is generally high quality. There is a nice plastic enclosure with nice wiring inside. The motherboard is nice, and it follows the overall design of the JBC original station, which, let's face it, is a nice ergonomic design. There is also plenty of power reserve in this soldering station. As shown in the test, it outperforms the T12 station, and it's compatible with JBC original tips, which you can get if you are concerned with, I don't know, performance or long-term stability of these clone ones. Otherwise, these copycats work just as well. There are also downsides, and some of these might be present just on my unit because it might have been dropped during shipping, so your unit might not be suffering from these problems. And here I'm referring about the cracks in the plastic case, but I'm also referring to the issue with the connection between the tip and the handle. I'm not sure if I caused that myself by first inserting a tip too hard into the handle, and maybe I've damaged something in there, but the truth is that currently the station doesn't always make a good connection with the tip. The firmware and the menu system is generally not as nice as with a genuine JBC unit, but at the end of the day it does the same job. And let's not forget the cooling fan, which was pretty annoying if you ask me. I've modded that. I have installed a silent fan which is running right now and you can't hear it. The original JBC station does not have a cooling fan, so I'm not sure what's going on in there. I don't have my thermal camera anymore to check the temperature of the transformer. Maybe they use a slightly undersized transformer and it gets hot, so it needed cooling, but on the original JBC station we do not have a cooling fan. Now, if the average hobby user asks which one to get, the best JBC clone or the KSGER T12 Hacko clone, I would recommend getting the Hacko clone for several reasons. Number one, it provides enough power for the general soldering purposes. Number two, genuine as well as counterfeit T12 tips are less expensive and generally easier to purchase than these JBC tips. Number three, the cost of this unit is around $70 compared to about $200 for the best station. And number four, the size of this T12 station is much smaller, which might be important for small and compact hobby workbenches. At this point, the only real reason I would recommend the JBC clone is if you really need that extra power for soldering big heavy components with heavy ground planes, and the general better experience that comes from this JBC design, which they've copied with this nice storing facility for the handle, with this nice feature for removing and inserting the hot tips, with these features for cleaning the tip. It's overall a very nice package that JBC designed. But this package will cost you quite a bit more over the KSGER, and the genuine JBC is just $150 more expensive than the copy, so it might be better off to just spend a little extra and get the real JBC to not have these quality issues that I discovered. But keep in mind that prices might vary depending on the promotions that are going on the various websites, and with the genuine JBC stations you do not get 3 included tips. You have to purchase those separately, and they are about 20-25 euros a piece, so you will spend quite a bit extra for the genuine station, probably twice as much as the fake one. It's likely you will also encounter this station under a different name like Jabe, and in fact the tips that I have here were marked Jabe on the packaging, on the plastic packaging they were placed in. So it's likely this Jabe company is the OEM for this product, and the best are just getting it customized at that factory and they're selling it under their own brand. So what I'm basically saying here is that if you can find the station for less than $200, then it really starts to become attractive. I will also link in the Jabe station, which seems to be identical. It is also available on Banggood.com, but from the EU warehouse, which could mean shorter shipping times depending on where you are located. If Banggood will provide me with a discount coupon for this station, I will also place that in the description below, so you can order this with a nice discount. That was all for today. I would really appreciate your feedback in the comments below. Let me know if you own this soldering station, if you're happy with it, or if you ever consider buying one of these copies of the JBC. I would really appreciate your support on Patreon. You can do that with as little as $1 per month, or you can just hit the like button, which also helps. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.